Hello and Guru Scott. On this video, I'm going to be doing a little bit of cleanup and refurbishment on this beautiful Dyrlund 1970s vintage, I'm going to call it a china cabinet. And I bought it on eBay and had it shipped to me, and it needs a little bit of cleanup and a little bit of restoration work. So first of all, we'll open it up on the inside and I'll kind of show you what's going on. Okay, so the first problem I found was the lighting system is not working. And somebody had sort of taken some of it apart, so I have to make some repairs. So right now I actually have the lighting system working. I have it actually rigged up that way. But the root cause originally was that they had the wrong light bulbs in. This is a European cabinet. So European doesn't take an exact candelabra type base. A candelabra light bulb will screw in, but it's slightly different. And I'll show you how that's different here in a second. So here's a European candelabra style bulb. And on the old styles, this part right here that makes contact is slightly elongated compared to a standard candelabra base. So the problem was they had put some wrong bulbs in and it wasn't making contact. But when they did that, they took out the switch and there was some other issues. Actually, they didn't take out the switch, but they didn't get it all set up right. So I'm gonna go back in and redo the whole thing and make that all first class. So that's one of the first things I'm gonna do. And then I'm going to do some stuff with the shelves. I'll show you here in a second. So this unit came with 2 shelves, and the shelves are teak veneer over pressboard. Kind of surprising for that era, because used to be they used pretty much plywood or blockboard for higher quality furniture. And this was a Dyrlund, so it should be very good. But actually, it's serendipitous. It's very good that this corner is chipped off, because I'm actually gonna cut off the corner on this and the other shelf that goes in there. And the reason being is I'm gonna drill a hole in the back, and I'm gonna be able to bring wires in, and this is gonna be my stereo cabinet. So I'm gonna have my stereo amp and everything else inside of it. So like I said, I'm gonna cut this off for the wiring. I'll show you how we're gonna do that later. And then in a moment here, I'm gonna turn on its side and we'll take a look at the bottom. Okay, so now we're looking at the bottom. I put it on its side, and there's only 2 levelers out of 4. So 2 are missing. Fortunately, I have these good German Hefele levelers. They look like that. Theoretically, I should be able to install them in here like this and be able to level the system. So I'm planning on doing that. I have 4 of these units. And then there's some minor damage, like up at the top here, because they didn't use a leveler. Some of the teak is chipped away. So I'm either gonna repair it with wax, or I've actually ordered some very thin teak strips, and I may put them on here, depending on how it looks, and wrap them around. It's gonna have to see how that's gonna come out. So that's a possibility. And so shortly I'm gonna start cleaning the outside of this unit with steel wool and turpentine. I'm just gonna go over it very lightly. And then after I start doing that, I'll show you what we're gonna do next. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is take some quadruple aught, or 4000 steel wool, and put some turpentine on it, just a little bit, and lightly go over all of this teak. And that's gonna help me clean off any old oils, dirt, anything like that. And then I'll go back over it with a clean cloth here in a minute. So I'll show you that once I get all this cleaned up with steel wool. So I'll be right back. At this point now, what I've done is I, of course, put the turpentine and cleaned the whole thing with steel wool. Then I went over it with turpentine and a clean cloth a couple of times to get all the dirt off. And then I went over it with a damp cloth to get anything else off, especially want to get any of the steel wool off. And now I'm gonna deep oil it with teak oil. This is Scan Care teak oil. I have a couple of different brands. This is one of them. So what I'm gonna do is saturate the cloth and just absolutely saturate this wood and let it soak in for a couple of days. And then I'll come back and I'll show you what I'm gonna do next. I've let the first layer of oil soak in really, really well. So now I'm getting ready to apply an extra thick second layer of this teak oil. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna seal it. So I'll be right back. Okay, my final step now is going to be to take this oil-soaked rag that I've been using to put oil on this thing, and I'm going to take this Watco teak oil finish. Now I don't use this first because it makes kind of a glossy finish, and I want that original hand-rubbed teak finish like from Denmark. So what I'm going to do is on this oily cloth, put some Watco teak oil and rub it in, and then in about an hour, I'm going to wipe it all off with a clean cloth. And that's going to seal the wood where I did things like rubbed it with steel wool and cleaned stuff off and took kind of the finish off. That'll refinish it. So we're going to do that, and then we'll have a look, see what it looks like. I've let this Watco soak in for about an hour and a half. So now you're going to take a very clean white cloth and rub off any excess oils. And what you're going to end up with is essentially what looks like an original hand rub finish. So I'll get that done and we'll come back and I'll show you how it looks after we've got it all cleaned up. And then I'm going to turn this into a stereo cabinet. So I'm going to be doing some drilling, and I'll show you that here in a minute. Since I'm going to be using this cabinet as a stereo cabinet now, I need to install one of these through grommets on the bottom. So I'm going to take a 60mm drill and drill it out. But before I do that, in order to prepare it, I'm going to put some tape down where I'm going to be cutting, because teak splinters very, very easily. And so I'm going to put some tape down, find the center of where I want to drill, and then I'm going to start drilling. So when I get it all taped up and marked, I'll show you how that's going to be. Okay, I've measured the center from each side, measured it twice, 3 times to make sure I got it right. Have this taped down to hopefully prevent it from splintering, and now I'm going to drill it through. So we'll cut this through and then we'll come back, see what it looks like. So here's the final result of putting the grommet in to the bottom. Came out perfectly. Definitely using the tape was a good thing because it didn't splinter at all. So that's done, and now I'm going to start cutting the shelves. So I'll show you what I'm going to do related to that. Basically, I'm going to cut a corner of each shelf off so that I can put them in here and run the wires down the side behind the shelves. So when I get that set up, I'll show you what's next. Okay, so I'm ready to cut the corner off one of these shelves. This is the damaged corner anyway, so good riddance. So what I've done is I've clamped this with 2 blocks, and I'm going to take an X-Acto knife and go along very carefully along the tape here. And that's going to cut the veneer so it won't peel. And then when I'm done with that, I'm going to take this Japanese saw and very, very carefully cut through this until I get it a straight cut that's with no chips or anything. So I'll do that and we'll see how it looks when I get done. Okay, so here's the shelf after I've done the cross cut on it. And so it's notched out now and the cable should be able to come up through there. So I'll do the other shelf, then I'll be ready to put the shelves in and we can see how it's going to look. At this point, we have mostly finished the cabinet. All I have to do to finish it is install some levelers, which I'm still waiting on. But if we take a look inside, I'll show you how I've got it so the wiring can go here in just a second. At this point, we're finished with the interior of the cabinet. Everything looks pretty good, so I'll show you how it came out here. So if you look on each corner, I made a cut so that I can feed wire down there. I'm going to have my amplifier up here, another unit down here, and something else down here. So the wire will feed down there to the speakers and to also supply power to my amp that's going to go up here. And so that's basically how the interior is going to look. All right, at this point I'm ready to install some levelers. There was original levelers here, and they actually were plastic, if you can believe that. So 2 of them had snapped off. I took a hammer to the other 2 and just tapped them and they just came right off. So I'm going to install this type, a U-type leveler, goes right here. I've already marked the holes and drilled them. What I did was, of course, put this up here, and it's going to be right against the wood. And so I marked them with a marker, center punched them, and then drilled these back holes with a hand drill with a drill stop. And these forward holes I drilled with a electric drill, a Makita side drill like this. with stops. So now what I'm going to do is put a drop of glue in each of those holes and install the leveler right here. And when I get that done, I'll be right back. All right, at this point we have all 4 leveling legs installed. We have a power strip, and that way we can feed all the internal components their power needs from the bottom here. And also the internal light, we went ahead and fed it around through the back and plugged it into the power strip. So now we're going to go put all the components in and we'll check it out. Okay, so now we've put our stereo and equipment into the cabinet, and we have it all configured, and this is the way it looks. Came out just beautiful. So that's all there is to this video. Thanks for watching. Tschüss.